Speaking of executives and CEOs and, bosses that smell their own farts, Ted Sarandos, CEO of Netflix, had a lot to say about movie theaters and just movie going experiences in general. He's had a lot to say about that for obviously a long time, but it's resonating even more these days, especially considering there have been some very significant successes when it comes to cinema. But let's check this article out. This is coming from Variety. I'm sure most of you guys already know that outlet. But Netflix CEO Ted Sarandos says movie theater model is outdated. Most of the country cannot walk to a multiplex, which is a weird off the back. That is such a weird point to make. Like, not just saying that the movie theater model is outdated or dead, which has, been a talking point for such a long time. It wouldn't be that kind of surprising for somebody to take that stance, but to specifically point out that you think it's dead, not because, streamers and all these other things and money and costs and all this, you think it's dead because people cannot specifically walk to a multiplex. I don't think that's been a problem ever with movie theaters, but to point that out in 2025 is pretty fucking wild to me, but kind of out of touch, but not surprising coming from Ted Sarandos. Ted Sarandos' latest interview started with the softball question. Have you destroyed Hollywood? I mean, this is a question that he's probably gotten from the start of Netflix. From the moment Netflix started getting popular and started getting traction and started becoming the monster that we know it is, and basically becoming the model for streaming services and streaming plans and platforms for everything after it. I'm sure he's had to answer this question time and time and time again. Have you destroyed Hollywood? No, we're saving Hollywood. As the Netflix CEO replied with a smile. Skip all that. Netflix is a very consumer-focused company. We really do care that we deliver the program to you in a way you want to watch it. Using the struggling global box office example, Sarandos added, what does that say? What is the consumer trying to tell us? That they like to watch movies at home? Thank you. The studios and the theaters are duking it out over trying to preserve this 45-day window that's completely out of step with the consumer experience of just loving a movie. I feel like that's a bit loaded. Obviously, he's going to speak from the side of streamers because he is the CEO of the streaming platform when it comes to film and TV. So all of these answers and all these responses are going to be a bit loaded and obviously biased considering, his position. But I think this is specifically loaded because, yes, the box office is struggling compared to the past. But I think that has to do a lot more with the studios and the movies being put out versus necessarily people saying they don't want to go to the movie theaters. Yes, people do prefer, generally to kind of be able to watch films from the comfort of their home. But when it comes to big blockbuster films, those true Hollywood type films, they are still more than willing and able to go and watch said movies simply for the fact and go to the movie theaters to catch those movies because they are an experience. Because movie theaters, which we've had this conversation already multiple times, are not just a place to watch a movie. They are a place to have the experience of movies, which involves a massive screen, a massive sound system, the popcorn, the community, being able to enjoy a film with your peers, with people, with a community of people that are all kind of partaking in the same thing, like a very social experience at the end of the day, which is something that you just cannot have, obviously, watching at home, aside from, with your family members or friends, just like people that live with you. So to say that people are saying that we don't want to, no, I think what they are saying is that, yes, we do want to go, but we want it to be worth our time when we go. Netflix is not entirely removed from the movie theater business, as the company owns Los Angeles' Bay Theater, New York's Paris Theater, which Ted Sarandos says Netflix saved from becoming Walgreens. We didn't save it to save the theater business. We saved it to save the theater experience, which, again, he literally kind of just reaffirmed what I said. people aren't necessarily going to movie theaters just to watch a movie. They're going for the experience of a movie, of a cinema experience, and one that, once you have it, it's hard to duplicate. Well, you can't duplicate from home, because there are just moments in movies. There are certain movies that are just so indelible with the big screen and are just so much more enjoyable when you watch them and experience them with people who are also experiencing the same thing as you, i.e. Marvel movies, Avengers, all those type of films that came out that became experiences for people that were best experienced in that setting. Netflix also must give limited theatrical releases to films seeking awards qualifications, such as 2022's Knives Out sequel, Glass Onion 2024's Emilia Perez. Yes, this is this has been a well talked about kind of aspect of things that they've had to do, because they were complaining about not getting Oscar nominated, but not being recognized by these big award shows. But what did they do? They had to compromise. They forced them to have at least a limited theatrical release for some of those films, which they have done from time to time, but it's not become like a mainstay of what they choose to do, but they will do for certain things. We have these bespoke releases. We have to do some qualification for the Oscars. They have to run for a little bit, helps the press cycle a little bit. But I've tried to encourage every director we work with to focus on the consumer, focus on the fans, make a movie that they love, and they will reward you. Sarandos also know that we're in a period of transition, saying folks grew up thinking, I want to make movies on a gigantic screen and have strangers watch them, and to have them play in the theater for 2 months and people cry and sold out shows. It's an outdated concept. Asked specifically to desire filmmakers wanting to make movies for movie theaters for the communal experience, which I was alluding to, that whole communal experience of enjoying a film, of enjoying a moment together. It cannot be dismissed. It cannot be ignored completely. It is a huge aspect of why people have loved going to movies for so long. It's an outmoded model. Sarandos says, I think it is for most people, not for everybody. If you're fortunate to live in Manhattan, you can walk to a multiplex and see a movie. That's fantastic. Most of the country cannot. That's such a stupid fucking argument, because I never grew up close to walking to a multiplex. Most people didn't grow up close to walking to a multiplex. Majority of the country had to drive to movie theaters, have to drive to experience anything. So it's kind of built into your living already, that if you want to go to something outside of the area that you're living in, or go to an experience or enjoy something, that you're going to have to drive. That is not a challenge. That is not an obstacle for people. It is something that is well ingrained in people to this point that if you want to go enjoy this thing, if you want to go experience this, you have to drive. I don't think that is an obstacle at all. So I don't really know why he's even pointing that out. He insisted that he loved movie theaters. Of course, that decline does not bother him. Instead, he said he would be bothered if people stopped making great movies. I mean, let's be real. Most people that are making original movies for Netflix are not good movies. Most original Netflix movies are not good movies. Yes, they get views. Yes, they get streams, because people generally view them as free, regardless of the fact that they are paying a monthly subscription. They view most releases on Netflix as free, as slop, as something that, there is no cost, there is no barrier to entry. So yes, you're going to get people watching it because there's nothing standing in their way. They already paid the price for entry. But let's be real. Netflix does not make great original movies. That is a fact. He warned Hollywood not to get trapped behind wanting audiences to see movie theaters, because that's how the film industry wants audience to watch them. Instead, for the sake of the entertainment business, Hollywood should adapt to the way in which audience want to watch movies. That's very much kind of like playing into the age-old saying, the customer is always right, which I actually generally have a problem with, because I think that is such a bullshit approach when it comes to creativity, when it comes to these creative endeavors. Yes, if it's a service industry, of course, that is a very reliable kind of tried and true way to approach doing business, because they are the ones paying for the service, and approaching that from that manner ensures that, most customers will have an enjoyable experience and want to continue to come back. When it comes to a creative endeavor, if all creatives, if all musicians, if all filmmakers, if all people are artists, all people in some sort of creative field went by that mantra and decided, I'm only doing something because customers already want this, you would not get groundbreaking, innovative things. You would not get cultural breakthroughs. You would not get things that challenge viewers or listeners or watchers. You will not get cultural moments. You will not get art. And film, at the end of the day, is still art. Yes, there is a huge commercial aspect of it, but that is not the only aspect. And I do not think that is the driving aspect for why most filmmakers get into it or why most people watch it. We've seen this firsthand. Disney tried to cater to the customers always right with their new Star Wars movies. And how did that turn out? At the end of the day, when it comes to creativity, when it comes to art, you have to create it with the intention of creating, with the intention of putting out whatever message that you want to as a creator, exploring whatever themes you want to as a creator, and then hoping or, doing the market. And then the business side is the marketing and the outreach to ensure that they find the right audience that will check out their creative endeavor. But as a creator, that cannot be at the forefront of your mind when it comes to creating, because we will not get 90% of things that we've already gotten in film. So that is strictly the talk of somebody who's only in it solely for the purpose of making money. So needless to say, I don't agree with pretty much anything that this man had said about the movie theater industry and just the movie going experience in general. But I'm not the only one. There were a bunch of filmmakers that have responded to him. This is coming from Collider. Filmmakers are standing up to Netflix after CEO Ted Sarandos' recent comments. If you watched any Hollywood award show in the past 10 years, you probably heard the name Ted Sarandos being thanked in the 7th speech, something that the 8th episode of Seth Rogen's studio playfully mocked. The inventive CEO of Netflix, not just one of the most powerful forces in the industry, but the man who is largely credited with spearheading. All right, we know who Ted Sarandos is. Let's keep this going. So this is going to be a direct response to the article that we just read, and where he kind of mentioned how he thinks the movie-going experience is outdated. Sarandos' comments are a reflection of his desire, not reality. Before delving into how filmmakers should respond, it's worth exploring the falsehood and logical fallacies presented in. It didn't help the famed CEO's case that he had made these remarks right as Ryan Coogler's Sinners was becoming the movie-going phenomenon of the year, which broke countless records, which sold out arenas, sold out movie theaters, sold out IMAX, brought in, I think, more money than ever for a horror film. Basically created a franchise right there from the start. If he wants to go that route, created a movie-going experience that was talked about across social media, across all these different platforms and online communities, and became this very viral moment, this exact definition, embodiment of a movie-going experience, of something that transcended just the commercial aspect of film, but became something that became part of the cultural conversation, that became part of the culture, which is what you want when you are a creator and you're trying to get your message out in this creative field or medium, which happens to be film. Star Wars Episode 3 was having one of the highest grossing free release weekends in the history of the domestic box office on its 20th anniversary. Again, another massive hit, another huge movie-going experience that further kind of proved that people still crave and want that experience and that communal movie-going experience, but they want to be something that is worth it to go and see. Minecraft obviously was a surprise sensation, made over $900 million at the worldwide box office. And this is a movie, just from the trailers and just from the general reaction, it's something that I thought was going to flop, that most people thought was going to flop. But because of the communal aspect, because of the communal experience, because of being able to enjoy this thing together with the communities that enjoy that kind of IP and franchise, which was Minecraft, it created this wave of cultural moments and movie-going experiences for people. And a lot of people, some of their first true experiences that will no doubt become ingrained in them and be the definition for what a movie theater can bring. So again, gotten proven wrong, not just, in recent years, but this year specifically. There has been huge movie moments already and huge things that like prove why movie theaters are still very much important. Numbers aren't the only thing relevant to this conversation. I mean, basically just reasserting exactly what I said. The theater experience will never be outdated because no Netflix movie will ever be able to generate a cultural moment or capture the zeitgeist the way something like Sinners did. And that's just a fact. That is a pure fact. Simply for the fact that because if you are only enjoying these movies, if you're only enjoying these moments strictly at home, strictly through a streamer, strictly on a personal basis, your only way of kind of expressing how you feel about this or gauging how other people feel about this is online instead of actually viscerally seeing this live in a person, you will not be able to create these huge cultural waves like that movie did. So I agree with this article already because they're kind of rehammering some of the points that I just made. Despite Netflix reportedly spending $230 million more on the Chris Pratt-led catastrophe, The Electric State, than Warner Bros. Did on Coogler's Vampire piece, we all know the films will be remembered in 10 years. This is a fact. They spent, I forgot about that movie. The Electric State was, again, one of those great movies that he was talking about that was a Netflix original that bombed. It bombed completely. And how do you bomb when you don't even have to pay to watch it? Or you've already paid and, you basically view this as a free release. How does something like that bomb? But I thought at the core is just like making great movies. You know why it bombed? Because Netflix is full of slop. It's full of slop. It's overflowing with forgettable movies, forgettable TV shows, forgettable content, which is at the core of this to me is one of the worst aspects of streaming and all of these new platforms is just how much they have devalued the importance of great filmmaking. Straight up. And most people don't even know what great filmmaking is because their only experience has been through these streaming platforms. Here we go. Filmmaker to line stance. Collider saying with Sarandos now fully laying his cards on the table, it's imperative that filmmakers take serious notice of what he said and rethink their willingness to work with Netflix in the future. To his credit, one director with ties to the company, Rian Johnson, who obviously did Knives Out and Glass Onion for them, has already spoken out in an interview with Business Insider, responded to the comments by saying, obviously I don't agree. I love movies. I love going to see movies. Okay. He also made it clear that he'd like to see his upcoming Netflix film, the third installment, Knives Out, play in movie theaters for an extended period of time. There you go. Filmmakers are the ones that are going to force Netflix's hand at the end of the day. They're the ones that are creating the content. If they were to push back against this and kind of force their hand, they have no choice but to abide by them and continue these movie theater experiences. But that's obviously going to take a lot of, cojones from these filmmakers for the simple fact that Netflix does have the budget. They do have the pocketbooks, and they're the ones that are typically going to be writing the check. Chronicles of Narnia. Oh, okay. I mean, this comment right here, it basically just it kind of made my point. I do have to agree with Ted Sarandos. Took 3 kids to the movie cost $120 for the experience of sticky floors, semi-comfortable seats, a movie that couldn't hold my interest. One, I don't know how you're spending $120. I don't know where you're at, but where I'm at, movie theater tickets are, I think, $12 right now. So unless you're buying, a ton of snacks, which I don't know if you heard about this little hack, but when I was a kid, my parents would bring in food in their pockets and their purses for us to eat in there. So just a little hack right there. It's something that's been going on since the beginning of movie theater, because movie theater food and prices have always been extremely high. But there was always ways people have found to get around that. So For a movie that couldn't hold my interest, yeah, I mean, it's Minecraft. It's clearly catered for kids. So I don't think that was an experience that was meant for you. I think it was meant for your kids. Now, if it didn't hold your kids' interest, then yeah, okay, I'm sorry. That's just a lost cause. But people really like paying for overpriced flights, being held to a set schedule. No, actually, people don't like paying for overpriced snacks. That's why most people sneak them in, at least when I was coming up. And then being beholden to a set schedule. Yes, because house where you have to have a communal experience of watching a movie. I don't even understand this show called Shared Emotional Experience, which, I mean, you're basically adding yourself. You're saying that you don't understand this shared experience of film. You just don't understand the film experience in general at that point. Like, so what are we talking about? I don't think the movie theater is to blame for that. You don't really seem to sound like somebody that enjoys movies. I'd rather watch at home and fall asleep comfortably during the latest I'd rather watch at home. I'd rather fall asleep to the latest release of drivel. If you consider all film and movies to be drivel, then you just generally don't enjoy film. So then why should you even have a comment on it if you don't actually enjoy film? That's like saying, like, I don't understand going to museums or going to view art when I can just be at home and watch it and Google the Mona Lisa on my phone. Well, I just don't think you enjoy art at that point if you're questioning why people want to see a work of art, a masterpiece work of art in person and have that experience of viscerally experiencing it when you can just see a digital representation of it on your phone. I just think that says more about you than the experience. But yes, there are some people out there that do not enjoy going to movie theaters and enjoy watching things from home on strictly streamers. And most of the people typically are not fans of the medium, the fans of cinema. But what I have found is that people like that, when they do have an experience in film, when they do have like this moment in film where things seem to click and you seem to understand why people enjoy going to the movie theaters, when you do have an experience that is visceral, that touches you to your core on a more emotional, artistic level, far from just, watching drivel, typically those people come around. I'm just saying.